friends. It's your half-assed reporter back. I'm gonna run into David Zwirner. Take a look at an exhibition here. Oh, and the show we're gonna take a look at is Sigmar Polke, Eine Winterreise, curated by Vincente Todolí. Well, with my limited German, I guess the Winterreise means a winter trip. This is Thursday night, and it's the beginning of the Freeze Art Fair weekend. So there are a whole lot of other openings. This piece is titled Palm auf Adelstoff, Tree on Fabric. Oh gosh, this reminds me of a whole series of paintings. I think it was Josh Smith exhibited out at was it Loring Augustine out in Bushwick about 2 or 3 years ago? There were probably about 5 other shows I could have covered. There's a Look Tuymans show at the next David Zwirner on 19th Street. There's a Cindy Sherman show. It's on 24th Street. Alex Katz down on the Lower East Side, but I decided I was going to come in and see this show. Wundenschaft mit Schilf. Anyway, I'm a big fan of Sigmar Polke. If you want to go and check the files, this is from 1969, and it's 59 by 49 inches. And yeah, looks like he's got some kind of interesting, almost like a silk fabric that he's painted on. I covered the Sigmar Polke retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art, and I guess at this point it's probably about 3 years ago. And I guess Sigmar passed away in 2010. This is Own a Title. Lacquer and spray paint in Perpex box. Yeah, so this looks like he's actually kind of just stapled a piece of plastic onto stretcher bars and then painted on both the front and the back sides. Well, I think Sigmar kind of fits into a unique place in German painting. And I'm not sure, but I think he studied with Joseph Beuys and was also associated with capitalist realism and Gerhard Richter. So he's kind of been woven through the main part of German art history. There's also Own a Title, Untitled. Acrylic and resin on fabric, 88 by 119 inches. This is from 1998. Well, Landschaft from 1982. You know, this is actually pretty good because I don't remember seeing any of these at his retrospective. So, he was a very prolific artist. Let's keep moving. We'll just sweep over this gallery to begin with. I think Benjamin Baclo also wrote a major piece about him and his relationship with Francis Picabia. Now, I was a young artist who just come to New York in the late 70s, early 80s, when the Neo-Expressionists were kind of making a splash. It's titled Hannibal mit seiner Panzerfanten. Hannibal with his armored elephants. This is 1982. And it's also resin and pigment on canvas. And at that time, I guess in the late 70s, early 80s, the Heftig painters, the Mohammed Freiheit artists, the new German expressionists were all coming out, people like Baselitz and Lupertz. And, well, I think Sigmar Polke always kind of stood apart from them, partially because he always had a kind of conceptual aspect to the work. Also, he did a lot of various kinds of work. I mean, this is nice because we're seeing the paintings, but he did a lot of work dealing with photographs and collages and sculpture and diagramming and all kinds of various things. It's titled Arsemi Boldi. And, well, in a lot of ways, this kind of looks like straight abstract expressionism. But I'm sure he's got all kinds of strange resins and chemicals. And I think at his show at the Modern, they had some pieces that he'd actually used radium on photographic paper to create the images. It's titled Lugsta, 1985. Actually, I'm kind of surprised there aren't more people here. And I remember seeing a couple of his shows up at Michael Weiner up on the Upper East Side. And this was in maybe the early aughts. And I was doing a lot of work with resins and very clear kind of synthetic fabrics that he was putting the resins on. This is a big painting. This is 120 by 88 and 7/8 inches. Nachtkappe 1. This is nightcap. And I'm looking at this and I'm noticing this little, the bowed stretcher here on the bottom. I wonder if that's intentional. Well, if you go back a week or two on the James Kalm report, you can catch a glimpse of an Albert Olam painting that was in the Nice Weather show curated by David Zwirner. And well, I think that Albert Olam probably was influenced a little bit by Sigmar's practice. It's titled Landschaftsreise 1, Landscape Journey 1. And, well, again, we'll take a look a little closer. You can see the use of the resins. And in this case, the resin has not only puckered, but then it's cracked. And I was just talking to the receptionist. I guess this is the first show that they've had here with David Zwirner with the estate of Polke. Landscape Trip 2. And, well, this makes me think of Helen Frankenthaler. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm also thinking of Carrie Moyer. Go back a couple of months, we did a report on Carrie. And, well, she's an artist that also likes to use a lot of various mediums, resins, lacquers. It's called a Landschaftsreise dry acrylic on fabric. And yeah, his use of printed fabric, I think, is one of the things that made him stand out. And well, I haven't seen any examples of it yet, but he also used the they called it the Raystall, the dots, kind of the photographic, a little different than Bende, but the dot patterns that were used to reproduce black and white photographs in newspapers. This piece is 102 by 78 inches. So this is Landschaftsreise 4. So right here we've got a suite of the landscape trip paintings. This is just oil and pigment on canvas. 102 by 79 inches. And yeah, for some reason I'm thinking of Picabia with that. Oh boy, now we've got a gallery of large paintings. This is titled Irgendwo ganz oben. Somewhere at the top, 1983, artificial resin and dispersion on canvas, 102 by 79 inches. And, well, I'll read a little bit from the press release. The works in the exhibition will range from playful takes on mass-produced tourist scenery from the 1980s to compositionally layered paintings from the 1980s that offer complex reinterpretations of travel-related themes, romantic notions of the sublime, and the hallucinatory imagery, thereby addressing both outward physical travel and inner mental intellectual journeys. Okay, well, I have a friend who is a pretty well-known German painter, and I guess it wasn't a secret that not only Sigmar but a lot of the German painters, like a lot of people in the 60s, indulged in mind-altering drugs. Smoked a lot of hash, things like that. This is titled Magnetische Landschaft, Magnetic Landscape, acrylic and iron mica on fabric. So here he's got some mica, which is a mineral. I don't see it sparkling. This is 116 by 114 inches. So that's almost 10 feet square. Another huge painting. This is Hallucinogen, 1983. It's very apropos. Pigment and resin on canvas, 126 by 102 inches. And, well, this, what looks like blue in my monitor, but in real life it looks more purple. I'm wondering if this is the dioxazine purple that people like Chris Martin and Bill Jensen talk about. Also, well, if you look at the way that the dark pigment kind of has a metallic glow when you get a certain kind of grating light on there, that's the kind of weird effects, almost alchemical effects that Polke was going for in a lot of these works. And I've even heard people speculate that one of the things that might have caused his early death was the fact that he had been working with a lot of very toxic chemicals and nasty resins and other kinds of solvents and things that are not good for you. We're going to wrap up looking at this piece. Schweizer Fleck, black stain. Acrylic resin and pigment on canvas, 1984. And, well, yeah, here he is working with the kind of almost a organdy or some very fine fabric, and then he's puddled a whole lot of resin on there. Okay, that's not exactly a brush stroke. I think people like Julian Schnabel have bit a little bit on this approach. Well, I snuck upstairs and they've got, wow, this wonderful installation. Okay. They said they're on the verge of closing, so I'm not going to have time to pull out the guide and read the titles. I think all these pieces are about 53 by 59. So that's a little larger than 4 by 5 feet. And these are on fabric with resin. Oh, this is great. This almost looks like stained glass. Now, I think that some of these characters might have been borrowed from 18th or 19th century comical woodcuts or something. Oh, that's cute. Okay, well, they're giving me the eye. This is the last gallery. Laterna Magicia, magic lantern. And again, we've got the very nicely crafted wood stretchers and frames. And then the central image is this very fine fabric with a lot of resin. This makes me think of Fautrère a little bit, except it's all flat. 53 by 59. Yeah, basically these are all kinds of studies of the fluid properties of the lacquer resins. Oh, that's beautiful stuff. Got kind of a honeycomb fabric there. Okay, now I'm really done. name's Kalm, walking through Eine Winterreise, Sigmar Polke at David Zwirner, 537 West 20th Street in Chelsea. Thank you, Kate.
Vamos a ver.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen.
C'est pire.